Hi, I'm Zoe Binning from Green Manatee. I want to chat to you about some of the things that I have real issues with in the wedding industry that are very, very wasteful in terms of things that people buy for their weddings. And there are a couple of things that really get me up on my soapbox, and I just want to chat to you about one of those now. And that is flip-flops. Many weddings that I do, the morning of the wedding, everything will be kind of there to set up for the day. And one of the things invariably is a box of cheap plastic flip-flops, sometimes in their own little organza bags, basically designed for me to put out in the evening just before all the dancing starts. So when the ladies who've been wearing heels all day are fed up of wearing heels and just want to dance and have fun, want to take off their heels, pop on a pair of flip-flops, because you don't necessarily want to be dancing barefoot on a dance floor where people might have dropped a glass or kind of bits or whatever. So understandably, they just want to put something comfy on so that they can dance the night away. And I totally get that. I have been there myself. But the one challenge I really have around flip-flops is that these flip-flops are really cheap. Cost price is usually around 20p, maybe a maximum of 60p for a pair of flip-flops, and a couple of pence in addition for the organza bags. Now, quite a lot of the time you'd buy a box of maybe 50 or maybe 100 pairs of flip-flops, depending on however many guests you've got. So, okay, it's not a huge outlay and it's a nice thing for your guests, but the implications from one day of buying something like this is just ongoing. Every pair of flip-flops ever made is still in existence. They do not ever break down. They will end up in landfill, or if they are put in the bin and you live somewhere where landfill isn't a thing, they will be incinerated, and the toxic fumes that come off those are just, don't even want to think about. In addition, it's about asking yourself, why are they that cheap? And the reason they are that cheap is A, they're made from really nasty, cheap, horrible materials, and B, they're put together in a sweatshop in a very poor country, probably put together by children certainly as young if not younger than my own children, and as young as your nieces and nephews and maybe little brothers and sisters. These poor little children are there 12 hours a day, maybe more, sitting at a sewing machine or sitting at a desk in horrible conditions, earning a pittance every day to make these really horrible flip-flops. Not to mention the organza bags. It isn't grown-ups paid a decent wage who sit there and sew up these little organza bags. It's kids. And I can't in all good conscience watch those boxes of flip-flops that are left at the end of the night, maybe chucked away, maybe someone takes them home and keeps them in the back of a wardrobe, but ultimately they're going to end up in the bin. And for the sake of that, buying these are just, it just goes against the grain for me. And because they're so cheap and so disposable, people don't think about them, people don't worry about them, and they don't mind just chucking them and leaving them. They're not something that they will take with them and cherish. They're really not. So one of the things I've been working really hard is to try and find an alternative type of flip-flop. The problem with that is it brings an additional cost to it, and I've found very few companies that do really recycled, eco-friendly, sustainable flip-flops. I found one fabulous company that does rubber flip-flops made from recycled rubber, and rubber breaks down. Natural rubber will break down, and if they're chucked in the sea, they will eventually break down and they won't be harmful to the marine life around them. Or if they end up, in the bin, then they've got a chance of actually breaking down. But the problem with that is there is a cost implication, and that makes them considerably more expensive and therefore cost prohibitive to buy a big box full of these for weddings. So I'm in a real quandary, because what do? Do I buy more expensive ones to stock, knowing that a bride is not going to spend however much it costs to buy a big box full of those for their guests, because to be quite honest, they're just too expensive for them to do that? Or do I look at different options? And realistically, I cannot find an option that is so cheap that will work instead. So maybe we go down the line of looking at socks or something else that guests can wear. Or maybe you ask your guests to bring a pair of flip-flops with them for the evening. Bring a pair of shoes, bring a pair of comfy shoes to dance into the night, because I'm not going to give you flip-flops, and this is the reason. And that is something that I kind of wonder, that rather than sell a product that will make me some money, I would rather actually sort of almost teach your guests and help you to train your guests to understand that there is a reason you're not going to give them the flip-flops, and actually maybe they could bring something themselves instead. So I will now get down off my flip-flop soapbox. That is the issue that we're facing, and that is something we've been really struggling with, and that is why we haven't got a perfect solution for flip-flops, but that is also why I would really urge you not to buy them for your wedding and for your guests. I'm Zoe Binning from Green Manatee, and I just wanted to chat to you about ways to maybe be a bit environmentally friendly and a bit more world friendly when making purchases for your wedding. Thanks. Bye bye.